this meeting to order at 7:05. It's a regular borough work session. Again, the meeting is being recorded for television, so everybody that, for the first time here. All right, Bobby, we'll start with you so we don't hold you guys up from the Veterans Association.
I'm here representing the Bristol Borough Veterans Memorial Committee. My brother Rick was supposed to make this presentation, but he was operating on the other day, so he's not able to walk around. In any event, I'm just going to highlight, and then if you fellows have questions or needs, I'll try to answer. First thing is to bring up today is that we're getting a lot of questions about the existing monument, what we intend to do with it. The age of it, the construction of it, the type of materials it's used. It looks like very soft type of materials. We're concerned that if we try to move it, we may damage it further. Additional monument around it. When we started this project, we had in mind about 2,000 names that we would have and currently, we have, I think the number's about 1,912 names or something, 1,921 names that have been submitted. Some of those have been submitted by people that live in the borough or family members that were aware of this project. Others we found on our own by going to the various churches here in town. We found that the Bristol United Methodist Church had a listing of veterans. St. Mark's 100-year celebration book had a listing. Calvary Baptist Church had some names. The Third Ward Firehouse had some names. It took some off the existing Sixth Ward monument. There was an article in the Bristol Foundation that I think is in the Fourth Ward and in the Bristol County. At the Carrier Times, looking for names of veterans that entered the service while living in Bristol Borough. As everyone knows, that's one of the prerequisites, the most important of all the groups. We know that even with 2,000 names, we're not going to have every name included that eventually are going to come about. But we intend to have the monument structured in a way that we'll be able to add names on a yearly basis. We're not getting the input that we thought we would get from residents or from even some of the veterans themselves. At this stage of the game, we're still attempting to have all these names etched on the monument at our cost. As future years go by, it may be if people want to have their names added to it, it may cost them to have their names added. So we've implored people that if they have veterans in their family, fathers, uncles, grandfathers, brothers, sisters that were in the service, that they should submit those names to us at our post office box. 341? I think it's 341. We have an architect who has told us that we probably need 6 granite blocks instead of 4 to have the names that we expect we would get. The current plan, I thought he was going to be here this evening, but he's not available to us. We intend to put it in a semicircle around the existing monument. We're hoping we have enough room with the borough restrictions to do that. If not, then there's a possibility we may have to come to the council at some point about moving the existing curb out a few feet. That's still in discussion stages with ourselves at this stage. What else?
Bobby, on the names, I'm sure they'll be in alphabetical order, correct?
try to do that.
I guess you'll leave space after, the A's.
Not necessarily. We were looking to put 500 names per tablet. We initially thought 4 tablets. Now, with us finding 1,900 names on our own, for the most part, we're thinking this thing maybe even doubles in a number of names. So it maybe have to be etched on the front of the monument as well as the back side of the monument.
Right. How is the organization doing financially?
Financially, well, as everybody knows what the economy is like, we don't have the funds coming in any kind of a steady stream as we had initially. Now, part of the problem is we haven't as yet secured a 501c3, and we recognize that large businesses aren't going to do anything until they know they can write their donation off. We submitted that in December. Richard Snyder submitted it for us. So I'd expect that we should be getting that soon. They did get an acknowledgement from the IRS that they have our application. They cashed our check. It's on our bank statement. So I'd expect that we should be seeing that within the next week or two.
Well, I think that this council already made a commitment to supporting your organization financially and, helping you with, curbs or, borough workers or whatever when the time comes. When you get closer to reaching your goal, that we'll do whatever we have to do to help you complete this.
Well, we appreciate that, and everyone's mindful of it. We also recognize that we can apply for grants, but again, until we get that 501c3 number, we're still limited. So hopefully in the next few weeks, we'll have that, and we can.
All right. Anybody have any questions for Bobby Tolstein? Jimmy?
No.
Just one. The idea, if I heard you right, is to basically leave the monument there and go around it.
Yes.
What about the names that are on there now?
They're included in this 1,921.
Okay, so they won't be on in 2 places
They
then.
may be on both places, but we haven't decided that as yet.
But nothing's coming off of the one that's...
Nothing will come off.
Okay, thanks.
Anthony?
Yeah, Bobby, I received an email from Mr. Karp. I can't remember his first name. He was born and raised in Bristol, went to Rider College, joined the Army, went out to Hawaii. Do you have a website that I could...
Well, we were on the borough website, but then when that was taken down and reorganized, we're not on
Do you
there.
have an email address? So I could tell him just to mail everything.
You could email it to me if he likes. My address is Tosti _ ROBT at Verizon.com.
I don't know how he found out about it, but I went on my email today and it was on.
Probably related to the Carps in Bristol.
Yeah.
Leo?
There's a Mr. Burns, too. He came up to me saying that his father was born in Bristol, but then he moved to Levittown and he was in the Army. I don't know if he talked to you or Mr. Al. Anyway, he said that, him and his kid are on it, but they won't let the father on it. So, well, let me just see Mr. Tossi before you do anything. He was really upset about it, so I said something's screwy because why? As long as he was born in Bristol, he can be on there, right?
No. The way it works is we've had a number of meetings, and at each meeting, this sort of comes up in one fashion or another. If we restrict it to the Bristol Borough residents, fellows that enter the service, and women that enter the service while living in the borough, we can best control the numbers of names we'll have. Because if you recall, at one point, people from the township went to school at Bristol High. So we'd have to open up all those people. So it's a situation that we're still trying to address and come up with a fair way of doing it. Maybe our attorney. At this stage, you had to enter the service while living in Bristol.
Yeah, I'm looking through the Vietnam veterans. I don't see Stephen Cucci listed. I think he was killed in action.
It is a fairly civil.
Yeah. Okay, how about Carpenter?
Tommy?
Tommy Carpenter.
Someone from his family would have to submit his
Okay.
name. That's only a partial listing I gave you folks.
Yeah.
It's one from each of the...
But you're starting from World War II to the Iraqi War.
Right.
Correct? Because at the lagoon, they have the statue for John Doherty from the Civil War.
Right.
So,
We didn't go back that far. We're starting in 1940.
I understand.
So you're saying you're restricting it to people that entered the service while they were in Bristol?
Yes.
Okay.
Joe, you have anything?
No, I just think that, I want to compliment the excellent job that your group is doing, and I think everybody in town really appreciates the idea that you're not going to move the monument that's currently there. I think that would have an adverse effect on people whose names are on there and their families. I think that's a good idea.
In fact, we're in the process of trying to get some numbers to refurbish it.
Right.
Reflate the placards that are on there now. And I think Carl White has given us some information on that.
Great job.
No, I'm good, thank you.
Just to let you know, once our TV is up and running, we'll have the availability to advertise on our community bulletin board. So if it comes to a point where you need some, to contact your organization, and we also have a website, we may be able to link back to you, to your organization, if that'll help you.
Good, yes, it would. We appreciate that.
Anything we can do, you know that.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Bobby.
Thank you.
Herbie, what do you have?
Just that this Friday, coming up at 5 o'clock, the fire prevention grant closes out. What we're submitting for the borough is to install 3,800 carbon monoxide detectors. That's about 90% of the housing units, with the assumption made that approximately 10% probably already have functional carbon monoxide detectors in the home. That'll also include labor, to pay people to do the installation. And the second part of that program will be an educational program, which will use videos, PowerPoints, and handouts. And we plan to post the information on the borough website, fire company websites, newsletters, and whatever else is available, so that in the end, every housing unit in the borough will have a functional carbon monoxide detector, and we'll have provided awareness training to all of the residents.
That's great. That's very good. Anybody have anything for Herbie? Chief?
Getting very close to the end of our renovation project. Some of us have already moved in. Absent any unforeseen issues coming up later this week, we plan on moving the secretaries, the rest of the patrolmen, and our computers over Thursday and Friday of this week. We'll be doing that also on Friday. We plan on closing the police records department, so in order that we can complete the move. So it looks like by next week, the public should be using the public entrance on the Mulberry side of the street.
That's great. Anybody have any questions for the chief?
A few more things.
I'm sorry.
We sent three sergeants to crisis intervention training last month to give them a better understanding on how to deal with people who have mental health issues in police situations. And we plan on sending 4 patrolmen this month, 1 per squad. And we had an aggressive driving detail last month that went over very well. They addressed speeding issues, and 184 tickets were written. 143 of them were along Route 13. And that was from a mini grant that we got.
Anybody have anything for the chief? Nobody?
Yeah, you know what, can we ask some of the police officers to keep an eye on, when they have bingo at St. Anne's School, people are complaining around Chestnut Street that the cars are parking on the yellow, so when they go to make a right on the Chestnut Street, they're saying they're afraid they might hit some of the cars there. So it's just, that was the only thing I had.
Anybody else have anything?
Yeah.
Thanks, all right. Bob, before I get to your presentation, I know it's going to take about 10 to 15 minutes total. I want to deal with, we brought Angie in because we've been having questions by Councilman Lutz that we don't want to go without having the answers for you. So, you have anything financially, Jimmy, you want to discuss or question anything so we can
I gave a list of my concerns to Mr. Dillon. I got it
give
back.
you all the answers?
I got it back tonight. I haven't had a chance to look at it, but
I mean,
I'm satisfied with it.
okay, I just don't want, we're paying her overtime.
No, that's fine.
So if you have anything during the rest of the night that you want to question, I'd rather do it now.
No.
So we're okay financially tonight. Angie, thanks. If you want to get out of here, you've been here since
Don't want
this
to.
morning.
Bye, Angie.
I just don't want to go, I mean, after last week, we want to be able to answer your financial questions immediately.
Thank you.
Bob?
First one's the Gateway. Gateway project first, Bob.
This is about the Gateway project, which is the old Route 13 project coming into Bristol. We have some money, we secured some grants, so we're trying to get this resolved. This has been going on since previous engineers, and I think Bob's now brought it to a head, so.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you very much. My name's Bob Solars. I'm from Gilmore & Associates. We're municipal engineers. I've done a lot of work in and around Bucks County since 1918. Just to give everybody background, a little background on the Gateway project. There was funding, or an allocation of funding that was set aside to the borough under the Transportation Enhancement Program. That's PennDOT's, they call it a TE grant or TE project. And that original allocation was done in 2001. However, part of the project involved securing a right-of-way or permission to use a right-of-way from Conrail. And here it is, basically 8 years later, and through no small effort on a lot of people's parts, nobody was able to secure that right-of-way from Conrail. In the meantime, time ticks away and things cost more money. The original allocation on that project was $750,000. If we were to try to build that project today, it would be well over $1 million in 2009 dollars. In order to go through the approval process to get it approved through PennDOT, and that's actually part of the difficult thing, it's at least a 2-year process, and we're looking at a budget of about $125,000 to do that work. That's to take it through the PennDOT process, not so much to do design, but there are 9 levels of approval that PennDOT, and since there's federal dollars involved, you have to comply with Federal Highway Administration criteria and PennDOT criteria. It's administered by not only PennDOT, but also the Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission. So there are a lot of what I'd call administrative costs in order to realize that grant. The PennDOT or the DVRPC is not in a position to increase the funding from the original 2001 allocation. So we've made a recommendation, at least it's our opinion, that the cost to secure this grant and the timing to secure that grant approval, 2 years, at least $125,000. And now we're talking 2011. Who knows what it's going to cost in 2011. We're never really going to be able to realize that project under that grant program. It probably makes more sense, as a practical matter, for us to look at doing some of these things in-house. That's assuming we get the Conrail right-of-way. We could probably do it with a lot less strings attached and a lot less red tape by looking at doing portions of it in-house or utilize other grant programs that don't have all the restrictions that the federal dollars do. The federal and PennDOT grant programs are, again, they're very burdensome from a standpoint of all the documentation. So at this point now, 8 or 9 years later, I think everybody's realizing that you really need a big project in order for that program to make sense. So we wanted to recommend that maybe you consider doing it a different way other than looking at this federal and state money.
This grant basically came up prior to me being on council. I think Pat, you and Joe was here, and Mike, I guess, or the previous, it started, I think, in 2000.
2001?
And they were
Maria was here too, I'm not sure.
Maria was here. It was an $800,000 grant, and back in 2000, $800,000 was a lot of money.
It wasn't old 13 then.
Yeah.
It was 13 then. It was that long ago.
I just think that by the time, and listening to Bob, we had a few meetings and some conference calls with Conrail and trying to get this worked out. It would make more sense. It's a shame to give back $800,000, but in the long run, I think we can do it in-house a lot cheaper, a lot less headaches, and look for other grants to secure this money.
We think there are some benefits, you know.
The first engineer that started this project was paid, I think, over $90,000. Am I correct? Maybe $100,000. And that was back then. And now that it's been sitting, we got Gilmore involved, and they brought it to a head pretty quickly. But they keep spending money on engineering and design and Conrail and PennDOT and everybody else. It's getting to a point where I think that we should just deny, tell them thank you, but no thanks. Jimmy, how you feel?
I don't have a problem with it, that sounds fine. Yeah.
Mike?
There's nothing else we can use this money for, like substitution lines or anything?
No, because the original allocation was based on that particular project, so they're not very flexible.
You know, I don't like turning it back, but I don't
Me
have
either.
a choice. You know.
Yeah, the cost benefit on it's way out of line.
I mean, it gets, which the roads are next. It's similar to the roads. If you take 10, 15 years to do roads, if it costs you $50,000 to do a street today, in 10 or 15 years, it may cost you $100,000 to do the same street. So you got to make a decision how you want to, Anthony?
One quick question, since it's on Old 13, I think Mr. Goslin had bought with open ground money a piece of property across from Maple Ave.
David.
Yeah. Is it possible we can use that funding to blacktop that? Because a lot of people use that to go to Otter Street.
No.
No? Because it's on the same
We looked
road.
into every angle you can to use this money
Yeah.
to put somewhere else, and it's really specific, this grant, how it's got to be spent.
I also think that our borough crew is more than capable of doing
Right.
a little bit of everything.
With PennDOT, I mean, look at the traffic signals. The traffic signals that we just put in, you had to do all the handicap ramps, all that signage, which looks good but wasn't needed, but you got to follow their specifications. We were just fortunate enough to have the Bridge Commission give us the entire grant to cover the cost.
Gotcha.
Eddie? Robin?
No, I'll just say that I personally attended, maybe 8 meetings on just this project, and if there was a way to do it, we would have it without the cooperation. They got Patrick Murphy involved. I mean, you can't imagine to what ends conference calls with 15 people in the room trying to get a resolution, and without the cooperation of Roman Haas, and it just can't be done. So, give them back their money.
Get all the Conrails, no easy day.
Please, that was half the problem.
No, then we're off track, forget it, they don't even hear you.
So, our recommendation is, look, don't pay us $125,000 to drag you through a process for 2 years. We think it could be done with borough forces or maybe some grants that are less restrictive, and you end up with the same thing, a lot less money in Ogden, so.
Jim, you have anything?
No, I just concur. It's a project that's been going on since 2001. Not too often do you get an engineering firm come in and say, no, let's not do it. You know, his estimate for just engineering costs to do the application was about $125,000, and hopefully, we can do it in-house, with our crew and in time. But it would be like 2 years' worth of engineering costs just to get a permit out of the state. So I agree with Bob's recommendation.
And just so everybody knows that the road, Old Route 13, still will have to get paved under our road program. So this money didn't cover doing the road. It only covered the walk, the lighting and all that, and which we can do. Joe, you want to add anything? I mean, you've been involved in this since
As you said, I know the amount of work that, that you've put in it. I know what I did for 4 or 5 years and the other, the council. I mean, we've had everybody's cooperation except Amtrak.
Right, I mean, you were in them conference calls. So.
Absolutely. And, every effort was made to make that happen. Just...
It's sad to give back $800,000, but... Okay, you want to move on to the roads?
Maybe we'll get some points for giving that back.
Some kind of grant somewhere down the line.
Yeah, they'll come up with a new grant and we'll get it.
All right, well, tonight, I'd like to just kind of give a brief summary of the Borough Road Program presentation, and that was done at the end of January. At that time, we laid out all the details of a comprehensive road program, and I'll try to spare you the detail of that, the engineer's misery. But bottom line is, we looked at what streets would be done, various project components, the cost, the different funding scenarios, all the things that we do up prior to construction, the things that are included, milling, overlay, some of the federal laws or state laws that are applicable. So again, this is more PennDOT requirements about some of the curbs that need to be improved, the curb ramps for accessibility in some cases.
Bob, that falls under the ADA, right?
Right, yeah. So, and this is just an illustration, but because, like our traffic signal projects that we've recently completed, and that'll give you a representative idea of some of those things that are required. Liquid fuels, and this is really kind of getting to the funding, because these are the things where we sort of ended last time, was the liquid fuels tax. And of course, that's something that when we all fill up at the pump, collecting a little money there from each gallon, probably from each gallon, and it comes back to the municipalities in the terms of the liquid fuels. And there's certain things it can be used for. It can be used for roadway reconstruction, resurfacing, those type of things. You can use it for programs if necessary. You can use it to help offset some of the public works expenses. And Bill and obviously is more familiar with those aspects. One thing it can't be used for is, because this came up, we talked about concrete curbs. If we were to replace a lot of curb, we can't use liquid fuels for that. It's only when concrete curb would be incidental to, say, a curb ramp, that type of thing. Then it's applicable. Again, as Councilman Sabatini said, the curb ramps are really driven by ADA and its requirements. We're looking right now at a schedule. We're at a beginning where ahead, we would look at an anticipated schedule of bidding in April, awarding in May, and a construction in May and October. And these are the type of dates that we were talking about last time. Obviously, we would limit the time a road can remain milled and things of that nature. We went through this in detail last time. I hope I'm not going too fast. The point is that
we've done these before, as well as working with borough staffs before, to make sure that we have proper advertisement, resident notification, detour plans, all the logistics that are required in order to make an orderly reconstruction project in the borough. We have the borough's responsible contractor ordinance, which helps us vet out or choose better contractors. And then, of course, we have testing during construction and construction oversight. What we looked at, and this is a summary of the probable construction cost. And this is without curb replacement. We looked at it 2 scenarios. Without curb replacement, we were looking at a total of about almost 9.9. If we look at it including curb replacements, it goes way up to over $20 million. So that'll give you an idea of the sensitivity of adding curb into the program, more than doubles the cost. Of course, we had certain assumptions that a certain percentage of the roadway would require base repair, or a certain percentage of the streets would be milled and overlaid. So, and we use those type of percentages based on our previous projects experience and looking at the streets. Funding. We looked at sources of funding. And in this case, liquid fuels, on average, about $135,000 a year is our allocation. Plus, we have an additional $200,000 surplus available in 2009. Street reconstruction budget of about $100,000. We looked at, for example, municipal bonds as a funding source, and we developed some rough numbers for that. Other funding and revenue, and the borough has been very successful in this in the past, is with the securing grants, a number of grants. So that is something that is not out of the ordinary and something that is a definite possibility. Then we looked at a funding scenario without curb, with curb, and looked at an estimated debt service. So why do we go right to the bond? And I think it's important that we say, we look at it and did like a summary of, if we looked at, okay, suppose we were just to use the liquid fuels money that we get from PennDOT every year, and we would use the highway fund or the street reconstruction budget. If we were to only use those funding sources, and for the option without the curb, it would take us over 40 years to fund that, and construction costs don't go static. We know that from the Gateway project we talked about before. So, and of course, I'm sure you can imagine that if we were to put the curb into the scenario, we're talking about 86 years. And I don't know, is anybody in the room near 86 years old? That's a long time. So obviously that would, underscores the need to look at additional funding sources in addition to what we get from the state and what we have in our borough budget. Historically, we've had in our borough budget. So that's why we're looking at it. And obviously, the timing right now, if we're to go out for contracts with contractors, you can get some great prices now. And a larger scale road program like this, we would be able to get very attractive pricing. At this point, we were looking at saying maybe we scale a program back and make it work.
Let me explain where we are with this, because this is something that we need to address and get this discussion off the council's floor and start giving people new streets in town. The dilemma we had was Councilman Lutz wanted to do curbs. We said we didn't mind doing curbs, but you needed to figure a way to pay for it. We had Gilmore come in and do some different options with curbs, without curbs. Then we had Councilman Lutz saying that we should only use liquid fuel money every year to do a street, and by doing that, it would take 41 years to complete the streets. And then we also had an idea of just doing the streets that Aqua were in the streets that Aqua already went in and ripped up, because they're paying 50% of the paving, and that would take 11 years.
Right.
Following Councilman Lutz's suggestion, and that would only do the 11 streets that Aqua was involved in. we need to stop playing with this, and we need to give people new roads. What I had a meeting last week with Gilmore, and my recommendation was, we're not going to go out and borrow $8-9 million. It's impossible. My recommendation last meeting when we did this presentation, and it stands tonight, is we borrow enough money that Liquid Fuel would be able to pay the loan. For about every $80,000 you borrow is about $60,000 or $63,000 in payment, correct? Every million, I'm sorry. Every million you borrow is about $65,000 in payment. If we take the Liquid Fuel money alone, we probably can go out and borrow anywhere from $3 to $4, maybe even $5 million based on what we get in every year, and hopefully it could go up and it could also come down. People are less traveling on roads with gas, the price it is. But you're not putting taxpayers at jeopardy by saying it's like the skating rink. You borrow $8 million or $8.9 million. The only way to pay for that is through tax dollars. So you're creating a loan and you're putting that loan on the taxpayers. If you create a loan or a bond through Liquid Fuel and you know you have this rent coming in every month to make your mortgage payment, then you're okay. You don't have to say, well, how about if we stop getting Liquid Fuel money, how do you pay the loan? Never happen. Every borough and township's entitled to Liquid Fuel money every year. So during this meeting, I said, what we need to do is retain your firm, because it shouldn't be me or any council member here, or even put it on our street and highway department, to go out and physically evaluate every street in Bristol. You said it would take you maybe a month to complete, 3 weeks to 4 weeks. See what streets we can do mill and overlay, what streets we can do the microsurfacing, which means it's about 1/8 of an inch or 3/8 of an inch.
Right.
It goes down hot, it fills all the cracks in, and you got a brand new road which will last probably 15 to 20 years, especially on our side streets that aren't heavy traffic. Maybe that same road, you'll pave, mill and overlay half of it, and then come back and microsurface the whole road, so it's a uniform look. The only way to do that is to physically go out and see exactly what streets need to be done. Now, as far as curbing, while they're out, they could also get an idea on curb. But your estimate was for 25, was it 25?
25,000 pair of bid specs to go out to bid.
Right. $25,000 to go out and get us a pair of bid specs, because how it's normally done is they put out the roads, mill and overlay, microsurface. Then when they're out there, the contractor might turn around and say, well, this needs to be mill and overlaid, and there goes the price up. We need more base repair. That drives the price up. So if we have, not that we're not going to hit this exact, I mean, we could be within 10% hopefully of the project. If he's out there and they're physically seeing the street, we have a better handle on what it's going to cost. So my recommendation was go out, physically do all the streets, come back and say, okay, now that we looked at everything, we think we can get it done for this. Also in this is the parking lot at Mill Street.
Right.
The spur line path, pond from Green Lane to Mill Street, the new road we just completed, and all of Jefferson. Now, the reason they put these roads in here is because eventually, over the next few years, you're going to have to do something, whether most likely microsurface them. So we'll also have a fund, and there's also in this fund a retainer for some kind of maintenance and different things. Because everybody's going to say, well, if you borrow this money for 20 years, you got to pay the loans. So that means 20 years we can't fix the streets. That's not the case. If Liquid Fuel goes up, we're going to start saving the money like we did also. Hopefully, if we're here, we'll manage it the way it should be managed, like we've been doing everything else. So my recommendation is to have your firm go out, come back in 3 or 4 weeks and say, this is what we need, this is around the number we feel we can get everything done for, and if we need to eliminate some roads or we need to do something at that point, council will make a decision. And I think Joe said the right thing a few weeks ago. I'm not sitting here saying I want to take care of the South Ward. I'm saying let's do what's right for the entire town. Because everybody sitting here has roads in their wards that haven't been done for 20, 30 years, that are sinking, that are potholes in them, that really need to be done. So I'll go through and see how we feel. Jimmy?
Okay, I don't know where you get your figure, but liquid fuels, I think this year is about 100 million. Road reconstruction, I think is what, 1.5, which is somewhere around 120,000. So you're close to 300,000 a year. But I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. First of all, curbing. I don't believe that we need to do 100% of the curbing.
You don't?
I believe there may be 10 or 20% of the curbing that needs to be done.
And I agreed with you last time.
That's number one. Number two, if we're doing the same amount of streets and it costs the same amount of money, to do it my way takes 41 years. You can do it in 20 years. Now, how does that make sense? We're going to do the same amount of streets, the same amount of money. We're going to use the same money to pay it back. Only it takes me 41 years to do it my way. It takes you, how many?
Yeah, but
20.
what you're looking at is what's the value of money in 41 years and what you get. In other words, how much does it cost to pave the street today versus what it costs, like we have with the other project, you have time value of money, so that's where we get caught up.
My next question is this. In '08, this council paid off a $500,000 loan last year, and part of that loan was for reconstruction. That was probably about, I'm going to say, a 13 to 15 year loan, right?
I wasn't here, I don't know.
Mr. Dillon, that loan that was paid off last year, it was no more than 15 years. My point is this, in the year 1994, when they took out that loan and redid those streets, the streets lasted 15 years. If this program and these streets last 15 years, your streets are going to have to be redone before that loan is paid off.
We just said to you that there's money set aside for maintenance and repair in this equation. If you, let's look at it this way. If you bought a house 3 years ago, a normal home, in normal row home in Bristol was selling for $100,000. 3 years ago, they were selling for over $200,000. If you put gas in your car 3 years ago, it was $1 a gallon. Now it went up to $4 a gallon. So what Gilmore is trying to say is that things go up every year. Wages go up every year. Cost of living goes up every year. Social Security checks go up every year. So what you're going to get today in 2009, you're not going to get in 2050, in 41 years. So at 2050, if we take your equation and we say, let's just use the liquid fuel money, and it takes, first of all, you are not going to be here in 41 years, and neither am I. Hopefully, we're still living close to 100, and you'll be in your hundreds. But what I'm saying is, it's just, what you're recommending to this council is ludicrous, because you're saying, let's do one road a year, do only the aqua roads that we have an obligation to do, but don't do the other roads until we can get the money. It's the same money.
But let me put it to you another way, Ralph. If that last road program was 15 years ago, and that's when they took out the money, and whatever roads they did, that wasn't ongoing. So for the past 15 years, the road program has been ignored.
We had the wrong administration here for 15 years.
You know what, I don't want to get into that past administration.
But I'm saying, we're telling you there's a maintenance program built into this.
Fine. Well, we haven't done anything in 6 years. And if we've had $200,000 a year from liquid fuels and the tax, actually it's over 300, we should have over $1 million set aside now on a road program that we never did.
No, we did do a road program.
Where?
We did all of Farragut from Green Lane to Mill and all of Jefferson. In that program, we had to do all the base repair and curb, and it cost us over $500,000, don't forget.
Do we have a list of all the streets that Aqua is going to pay 50% of?
Yes.
We do.
He had it up on the screen.
So you've already subtracted Aqua's contribution to those streets.
Takes 11 years just to do their streets.
Listen, I agree the roads have to be done. I also agree that we can use the liquid fuels money and the road reconstruction tax. My opposition is to borrowing money. We just borrowed money on Elm and Chestnut. You've got a couple of $1 million in renovations that we haven't gotten back yet. And I don't think in these kind of economic times, we need any more debt. I don't only want on the books for another $5 million.
We're not creating debt. First of all, I wish we didn't send Angie home, but to get into finances, the downstairs renovation was zero cost to taxpayer. 100% is being paid through by grants. And it will not exceed the budget. The traffic lights that were put in, 100% is being paid by a grant. No cost again to taxpayers. The second floor renovation, 100% was paid for at no cost to taxpayers. You just don't believe these numbers.
I don't believe the numbers.
Well, then you're saying that the auditor's wrong, the
But for
budget...
somebody who watches
Ask me a
the
question,
budget
I
as
don't
well
believe
as
the
you
numbers.
do, how could we have possibly misspent anything? You're saying there should be $1 million in liquid fuel. Jimmy, nobody watches but you're the watchdog, for God's sakes. You watch the budget. Where do you think that money went?
Well, I just think that, look, if we have what you have up there, a percentage for curb, 70%, that's 11 million, right? If you said there was only 20% of curb that needed to be done instead of 70, you still need to get this money to do it. Now, if we take your theory and take your street needs all new curb, right?
Not all new curb.
Well, how would you say 50%?
Not that much, but
40?
30.
30. 30% of your street needs curb. Let's say that street is, I don't know how long, 500 feet long? Right?
Okay.
So you take the length of the curb at $40-some a foot to do curb. Where do you get the money? And how do you get the money to do your curb and your street? Now you're going to start dealing with trees. So when the trees are into the curb, what do you want to do, cut trees?
I'm going to get my money to do my project the same way you're going to get your money to pay back the loan. It's coming from the same place. But let me ask you this question. Because obviously you don't believe that the curb is part of the street.
I didn't say that. I agree we should do the curbs. I'm just saying to you, how do we do them? Just tell us what this magic equation is.
We use the $300,000 a year, and we pay as we go. We do 300 this year, we do 300 next year.
Piecemeal.
And it's an ongoing program, it never gets finished.
Do we
But
do
by the
mill
time we
runs?
put all the streets, it's time to do them over again. And
Mill
that's the point.
runs?
In 86 years, we'll start this
No,
process.
it's not 86.
Do mill runs?
Well, I think that they're a pretty reputable firm.
Let me ask the question. If we don't do the curbs and you just repave the streets, and who is liable for anybody that gets hurt or a vehicle that's damaged on the curbs?
The property owner,
Property owner?
according to the borough
If somebody
code.
gets out of their car and a hunk of curb is missing and they fall and get hurt, it's the property owner's responsibility.
That's correct, that's what
So
the
the
borough
curb now
code
is part
says.
of the property.
Always was.
Always has
It's not
been.
part of the street.
Bob, as an independent engineer, can you make that statement again?
All the boroughs that we work with,
Where is this money?
that's the typical ordinance, is that the curb and sidewalks are the responsibility of the property owner. Part of the borough code, so that's whether you're shoveling snow, or whether you're fixing a broken sidewalk panel, or if you get a curb that rolls out, or something breaks or deteriorates, it's up to the property
If
owner.
I'm parking my car and my tire gets punctured on a curb that's manual, I gotta go after the property owner.
That's the same question you've asked 3 times.
It is?
Yeah.
You can mention this.
I am. I usually do. Yeah.
That's all I have. You know where I stand.
Well,
That's my position.
You take a position
That's
on...
my position, Ralph. I'm not
But
going to
what
debate
I'm
it with
saying,
you.
I'm not asking you
It's
to
not
change your
necessary.
mind, it's going to come to a vote.
I'm not going to.
But what I'm saying is, you want to accomplish something, but you don't have the answer to accomplish it.
I have an answer.
So you're saying your answer is publicly, and I want to go on record with this, take liquid fuel money only and take as many years as it takes to do the streets and curbs,
Liquid fuels and the road reconstruction tax.
and use
And if
that.
we could pick up a grant somewhere along the
You
way,
only
that's
can
fine
use,
too.
you only can use one fund for roads, for curb. You can't use the other fund.
Well, I'm not going to vote to borrow $5 million. I'm just not going to do it. So if that's your alternative?
No, I'm not saying that.
Is that
We-
what you're saying? Is that my
Well, the
alternative?
alternative is to come up with a program
I just did,
that
right?
liquid fuel money will pay back the loan and give the taxpayers more streets for their money instead of taking so many years.
Liquid fuels can pay back the loan, but it can't pay for my streets.
Sure it can.
It's not enough.
It can pay for your street, but it only
So
can...
is it just
Do you
borrowing
want to
the money?
explain this
All
one more
Is it
time?
just borrowing the money, is that the
Ralph,
objection?
I'm done.
Well, we're not done.
Well, I'm done with my position. You know where I stand. I'm not going to vote for a loan. I have and I'm in favor of doing a road program. It's that simple.
So you're in favor of taking the liquid fuel
Fuel
money
money.
every year?
And the road reconstruction tax, the $300,000, and do as many streets as we can. Next year, we take the same money and do more streets.
Okay.
We
How
take
do
the
we
streets
determine
that
what
needed,
streets get done?
the streets are in the worst condition, get top priority. They're done first.
Okay.
Had we done that on Wilson Avenue and Harrison Street in 2007, we had the money, those would be
Wasn't
two
spent.
major streets that we don't have to do
We
now.
couldn't resolve the
But
curb
this
issue up
council
there.
chose, well, Ralph, do I have the floor?
Yeah.
You want to put a buzzer on here?
Hey, don't talk to her like that. Don't talk to her like that. Don't disrespect her like that.
That's about the fourth time you interrupted. You're very ignorant. About the fourth time.
Because you get too much time anyway.
Democracy,
You're giving
we're
I'm
talking
listening.
about things.
I'll listen to you, Mrs.
All
Cornell.
right, okay.
But if I have the
Yes,
floor, you need to
Colonel.
listen
All
to
right,
me.
you got the floor.
Fine.
Ms. Trinet.
My position is that had we done that in 2007, had we done something in 2006 and in 2005, we wouldn't be in the same situation that we're in today.
Right.
That's hindsight. But there's no reason why we can't continue.
The reason we didn't do anything in the few years prior, because we knew Aqua was coming in ripping up Wilson Avenue. And we saved the money, we did not use the money. We were going to pave it last year, but you started by saying, I want to do curbs. Do you remember how this whole issue came about? You walked the street with the engineer, am I correct?
That's correct.
You came back to this council with a list that we couldn't afford to pay for it. Plus, we didn't get into the handicap corners yet. I mean, you've been dealing with this a lot longer than me.
Listen, Ralph, we went out to bids. The low bid was affordable. I showed you where it could be paid for, and let's not try to twist it. We had enough money in 2007 to do Wilson Avenue and Harrison Street, and you chose, this council chose not to do it. That's fine.
We didn't have enough money to do the curbs and the
Certainly
curb.
That's right, because the curb was the issue.
We had enough.
Mr. Harris, the question is, do we retain Gilmore to do a complete study and come back and list the roads that need to be done and what it's going to cost? And any other comment you might have?
I think we need that number. And also, I think one of the other problems that we're facing when we start talking about opening this thing up to curbs is we open it up to the ADA and all the corners and all that, which is going to be an incredible expense for the borough. When you start adding those ramps in, and when you do that, you got to put the blind cane walk things in.
It's a tactical surface.
So, you know, you could be talking about a lot of extra money.
Anthony?
I agree with having to go out. I don't want to be solid and decide which street has to be done first. Because obviously I'm going to say Buckley, Beaver, Mansion. I'm going to say all the streets in Ward 4. Let them do it and tell us.
I agree with
There's two issues here. First, what happens to the people? Jim, you had said that who owns the curb? How many people will be up here in our meetings bitching and moaning because they had to sell their home and redo their curb at their cost? Are we going to have to pay them back?
Well, the first...
Number one, that's the issue about curbs, Mr. Lutz. When you sell your home, you have to If the curb's in shambles, you have to fix it up, the homeowner. So it's sold. Right now, in the construction industry, is a time to hit because the contracts are real low out there. You got a lot of companies that aren't working. They're going to do it at cost and equipment rental. It's going to be, this is the year you want to do a lot of stuff because we don't know what's going to happen to oil down the road. Oil's the main ingredient of all this stuff we're doing. It's at a low term now. Contractors are starving for work. I think we put it out, let it come back. Because right now, I think the prices that were up there, I think we're going to have legitimate contractors come in even lower than that.
Very, very possible, and you make a very good point. And that's why we wanted to look at this, and we thought from a value standpoint, what you get for the dollar, if you do it on a larger scale, like a road program, you're basically getting a quantity discount, you're getting it in $09. Okay, whereas opposed to the discussion we were having, Councilman Lutz, was if we went out over time, well, every year the costs go up. Oil, cement, whatever the key indicators are, those things will go up. So for that sort of relatively flat dollars, you're getting less and less. So that's the key difference. Whereas if you were to get it, and as Councilman Sabatini said, you're getting this, like what we'll call the sweet spot, or the good part of the market, you can get a lot of value for the dollar.
Exactly. Contractors today will bid on work just for wages and for the rental of their equipment. That's how bad the times are.
They're trying to keep
I
good
just
people.
think we'll get a good reputable contractor on top of it.
Betty?
Yeah, I think the only one that needs a muzzle here is Mr. Lutz, first of all, okay? For the last year and a half, maybe 2 years, we've been hearing about the curbs in Harriman. It wasn't that we were against doing a road program in Harriman. We wanted the whole town to be done. We all stand for a different ward. It wasn't that we didn't want it done. You always disrespect her, but you go on and on and on and on. And there's 8 council people here, not just you and Ralph, and I'm getting tired of it. I'm getting tired of it, I really am. We're going over and over this all the time. I think we just need to get to the point, vote on it, and it's done. That's it. That's it.
I think part of the problem too with this 41-year road program is how bad do you think the roads that aren't that bad today, how bad do you think they're going to be in the 38th year? I think they're going to be awful. I think as long as we don't have to raise taxes, which obviously we don't, as long as this isn't the burden of the taxpayer, I think taxpayers want their roads done. And the other thing I want to say here too is that although each one of us is voted into office in a constituency and a ward, we all as a body represent Bristol Borough. And I think we need to keep that in mind, and everybody doesn't have to continuously talk and stand for their ward. We owe government to the entire town. So I'd say proceed, and we'll get to do our road program.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I don't get a chance to vote, as everybody knows, but I've been sitting here listening to this for a year and a half, and I echo Betty's comments and Councilwoman Trinell's comments. What's not realistic with Councilman Lutz's proposal is when you look at just the fact of taking $300,000 and throwing it at a group of roads, and that's all you're going to be able to do. In some cases, you may not even be able to do more than 1 or 2 roads. I mean, we all sit here, we know there are engineering costs for drawing specs. You take that $300,000, you got to take the engineering cost out, specifications, mobilizing fees. Pat can tell you, when you bring in a contracting company to do that work, they charge you, as you well know, too, Mr. President, that it's X dollars to bring that equipment in here. What sense would it make to pay that mobilizing fee every year to have that done, rather than doing it all the roads at one time, or whatever the council determines, versus doing 2 or 3 roads at a time? It makes no sense, and I don't think the people in this town want just 1 or 2 roads done. We all know that there are numerous roads within the town that need to be done, and I think the way that you're proposing is the most economical way to do it.
I just think that what what Mr. Lutz is. He wants to be able to go through town saying, they borrowed $5 million, they're going to raise your taxes, they did.
Bankrupt.
It's all politics. It's an election year.
I think you've laid it out clear enough that
Can't be
there
any
are
clearer.
no tax increases and the work can get done.
Anybody in the public want to voice their opinion on this?
Look at it.
Sir,
No.
just stand up.
I'll speak to this, and then I have a couple other issues. First of all, you people have been voted in office to agree and disagree with each other. And Jim, I really take offense to you referring to her as a dog.
I didn't refer to her as a
Okay.
dog. She interrupted me about 4 times. I wanted to get her
He
quiet.
just interrupted him.
It's
I did not
okay.
refer to her as a dog.
Throughout my years of 36 years, I have fought many meetings and argued and interrupted people and have been interrupted. Because we all feel, you feel you're right, they feel they're right. And it's okay to agree, to disagree, but to put a muzzle on someone, that really wasn't nice. I have always supported you and everything you stood for. And I won't mention any names, and you're not here tonight. And I always tell everybody, there's a council person that hates my guts for no reason, you don't know why. But all the good that he done, he would stand up here at this council meeting and make a complete donkey out of himself. All the good he has done throughout the years, he has made a complete jackass out of himself. I act like a fool. And that was uncalled for to say that. It's okay to disagree with people, Jim, but to put a muzzle on somebody, that just wasn't right.
You know, Donnie, I'm sorry you feel that way. I had no intention of referring to her as a dog. She interrupted me when I had the floor. Now, is there a better way to say it? I'll say it a better way. If I offended you, Mrs. Purnell, I apologize. There was no reference from me to you as a dog, but you were interrupting me 3 or 4 times. It's that excuse
me, you don't say put a muzzle on it. It's terrible.
You're
There's a
right.
way to do it.
You're right.
Excuse me.
I apologize. If I offended somebody, I apologize. It wasn't my intention. My intention was to get her quiet.
You could have said, excuse me.
You, Mr. Chairman, could have just gaveled her down and said, Mrs. Trudell, you're out of
Well,
order.
we have
But I
a
wouldn't
free-
expect you to do that.
No, Jimmy, we have a freely, I allow a lot of leadway with all council up here.
When I run a meeting and people get out of order, sometimes it's very hard to take the gavel and bang it and slam it. Sometimes it's really an insult that you have to bang the gavel. Because I like to let people say their piece. Even if they're talking about me, everybody has an opinion. And everybody should be heard at these council meetings, including you.
Anything else, Mr. Crow?
I have a couple other things. Can I say it real quick? Sure. First of all, I would like to thank the borough secretaries and the borough road gang. Anytime I call here for inspection or any other issues, I'm taken care of very good. Our street gang was out very early. I spent the night at the firehouse all night, and they were out on the roads very early, and I drove around just to see what was going on. They've done a terrific job to make our life safe. Mr. Sabatini, it's an honor to have you on our council. I read all these nice things about your son, and the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree.
Thank you.
The chief took me for a sneak peek of the police station. It is terrific. And when I ride down Pond Street and the lights are all green when there's nobody coming, it's very nice. The lights are nice, the signs are nice. It takes a little to get used to, but it's really beautiful. And in spite of your differences, there's a lot of nice things happening in Bristol. And I hope I live to see everything completed.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And anytime I speak at these meetings, I'm never coached, I've never ever been asked to speak or say anything for anybody. I speak from my heart. You know, see, I don't see here with the paper, and I'm so sorry. The most important thing I wanted to say was I really like to thank the Tossons and the Lollies for all their hard work. I say many times, people, when you say a volunteer, you think of a fire company or rescue squad.
but there's so many other very, very important volunteers in Bristol, and these people are very important and special, and they're going to make that corner beautiful. And I thank them for all their hard work.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Anybody else like to say anything on the roads or your taxpayers? I don't know how anybody feels about it. Okay. Give me on any other issue. I'll start with you. On council item.
Have we received a copy of the Pennsylvania Economy League report? They want to do
Chose us from, or?
Pardon me? About 6 months ago. We were chosen as one of the boroughs.
Right.
Have we gotten a copy of that report?
Started.
They haven't completed the report. We had forwarded to them all the information that they requested, so
I haven't got them back.
the report's not finished yet.
Okay. How is the President Obama had his stimulus package approved by Congress? And I guess that money, a lot of that money is going to be turned over to the states. How is that going to affect us? I mean, do we need to get maybe Galloway and Tomlinson in here and find out what kind of money Bristol Borough may be eligible for with some of that stimulus money?
We've been meeting with Galloway and Tomlinson before it was even announced. And Murphy.
Where are we at?
Right now is, what's there, 40 billion going into roads? 40 billion going into roads. We already have some applications in, because what they're saying is the early bird gets the worm. So if we have a road program ready to go, and they're going to fund any of these projects, they want to fund projects that can put people to work immediately.
This is in his packet.
That's why we want to have Bob get this done so we can move quick. This was in your packet, I think. Did you read it?
Yeah.
About Murphy and
And the
That was
Obama
Murphy.
stimulus
the
package.
stimulus package. We've been on top of all this money, but we're understanding also that the money's probably going to go to PennDOT first, and PennDOT will probably do PennDOT roads. Now, whether any of this trickles down into borough roads or township roads, we don't know. But we're on top of any grant that could be put out there, we stay on top of them.
Good.
That's why we've been successful.
That's all I have.
Mike?
One thing I'd like to reiterate what Mr. Crow said, that the street guy, they did a great job today. I was out early, and I was out throughout the day, and the roads in Bristol were the best I think I've ever seen in town. And we did pass that along, I appreciate it. Secondly, the meeting we had about the ball fields, they were supposed to meet with the school board. Did they have that meeting yet?
Yeah.
March the 5th.
It's the 5th? Okay, so we haven't got anything on that yet? No. Okay, that's it.
You know why the roads look so good? We got 8 plows and 8 new trucks.
All that new equipment.
Equipment, you can do a good job.
One guy in each truck,
There you
instead of
go.
2 in each.
That's why we voted for them. Anthony?
I called George today to thank him because it was great going to work this morning.
Went in, I think, 2 o'clock this morning and plowed with wind blowing the stuff back and back onto the roads, and they were salting, and I think they're all coming in early tomorrow to get a jump before people leave for work, so I think they did an outstanding job for the conditions they have, but it comes down to equipment. You gotta have the right equipment to do the job, and we have it right now. Betty?
Nothing, thing.
I'm sorry, I skipped you?
Yeah, it's okay. I had a little problem on Spruce Street, so that's all in the works. But that's not what I want to talk about. What I do want to talk about are the bridge overpasses that are all in the North Ward, except for the Green Lane overpass. If you go to Pine Street and Spruce Street and look at the overpasses, it actually, this is where Gilmore might come in and help us. You can actually see the iron,
The rebar.
the rebar. They actually use some kind of fencing to just twist it up. I'd like to know how we can get that fixed,
Well, Councilman,
because it's falling. I see concrete on the ground.
I know Councilman Musey met out there with, I think, Galloway and some representatives trying to get Conrail. There's so many, look out, it's been, how long with Old Route 13?
I've been here for this.
You're dealing with agencies,
98.
right, that just, it's so hard, they're protected.
Can't we just file an injunction against them?
We filed citations, we cited them in Harriman for all the railroad ties laying on the embankment and overgrown grass, and
What I'm afraid of, Mr. President, is that someone walking underneath there, and a train comes by, a piece of concrete comes flying by, and it already has happened twice. One gentleman got struck on the shoulder, sued, and got over $500,000. This is this thing, they'd rather give the money out in a lawsuit than come in and properly fix it. Some of these bridges date back to the 27 and 1931. And you know, structural concrete, it's tough that lasts that long.
can we get some kind of letter off again to them? Tell them that the two councilmen in that ward would like to meet with a
Especially with the
representative.
spring and summer coming, you know, there's gonna be more activity on the streets.
Well, the pigeons, the everything,
Yeah, I
the
mean,
cleaning up, it's
yeah.
been an ongoing
What
problem.
scares me, because I'm in the business, is that when you start to see rebar or fencing, and you start to see hollowing of your pier that's holding up a train, that spells catastrophe. I don't want it to happen on my guard. So, like I said, this was an issue when I first got in, 98, we haven't been able to do it. Anthony and myself asked about it 4 years ago. Now I really want to pursue it to the point where they got to come in and do something.
Mr. Chairman, can I just comment a minute on that? Might we add in that letter that if this continues, we might have to shut down the northeast corridor for rail service?
Well, I think that Merle, and I could be wrong, Merle, you met because we were concerned, God forbid, there's a train wreck or something.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, we can't even get to these high lines because of the overgrown and the brush and...
Comment. I just thought if we indicated that they may have to shut down rail service between
Right.
New York and Washington because of this problem.
I think we even had our engineers out there to say,
Block the
Tracks.
rail.
Lay on the tracks.
Guess what? That sounds like a good idea. Just shut it.
First. Don't lay on
You're
the
not allowed
tracks.
to go any
Okay,
further.
we'll follow
"Stop
you,
them
Pat.
first, I'll stick."
You stand in front of the Incella.
Pat,
The
there's
same
some-
thing when Pickering Courts came in.
Right.
When they wanted, and Bristol Township, they dammed their water to Magnolia Lake, then it comes through Silver Lake. There's only a foot and a half of elevation from the bottom falls of Silver Lake to the river where Otter Street heads. So everything gets stuck on our side. And I told Fidella, who was there, I said, why don't we goddamn dam the damn thing and let the water go back to Bristol Township? But this
Who
is
didn't
getting
wanna
out of
spend the
control
money?
because
I'm
there's
gonna have Jim
there's
get a letter
concrete
off
all
with
over the place.
the
Did I
mayor,
wanna
the
spend
chief,
the money?
the emergency manager, put everybody's name on this
There you
letter.
go.
See if we can get their attention real
Yeah, and
quick.
say that, you know, I like what Joe said. We will force a stoppage of going over our territory because of danger.
Couple things. Mr. Salerno, what is the borough's position legally on yard sales? And I'm sorry,
Thank you, go ahead.
I noticed that
Go
on
ahead.
Saturday, a resident on Bass Street opened their front door and put all of their belongings on the sidewalk, and I'm assuming it was a yard sale, I wasn't
It
sure,
was.
or an eviction. So do people have, I mean, are they allowed to put, that's all right, are they allowed to put their goods on the sidewalk? I mean, I understand if they have a yard, but are you allowed to just put your things on the sidewalk and sell them?
Okay.
Answer, Mr. Salerno.
You can put them on the curb, which was shown tonight.
Right, that's behind the curb.
Can't block the sidewalk.
The other thing I just wanted to make sure I noticed in our packet, about joining TAG for $3,000. I'm sure that, we're going to vote to do that, correct? I think we have to, right? Okay. And the third thing is I just want to compliment our animal control officer. I think he's doing a great job. Everybody sees him all through town. I've called him a couple times. He's out in a heartbeat, so just a compliment to him, and that's it.
I want to make a recommendation that we put on the agenda to hire Gilmore and Associates to go out and do the program. Hopefully, we can get this job to come in at a cost that we all could agree on. Are you going to look at curb while you're on this site or on this?
We'll be doing that, I think, more on a spot basis because we
Right.
want to get some unit prices on curbs and some of the other incidentals. So it'd be good to at least get an idea of what we're working with. If we have some bad areas, that kind of thing.
I recommend that if we can use any of the borough workers to cut any of this cost, to put, because they're in between cutting grass right now and doing, not that they're not busy, but if a couple of our guys can join you to just do measurements or whatever, and it could save some money for the borough, I also think we should put them to work on that. The other thing is our April 6th meeting, which is Monday evening. I request that we move to Tuesday, April 7th, because one of our borough employees is doing a fundraiser at the theater, and I think that if we all could attend that or whatever, it'd be a good gesture. So instead of meeting on Monday, April 6th, we'll all meet on Tuesday, April the 7th. Is that fine, Mr. Mario? Mr. Mario is performing at the theater for a fundraiser, so we all want to, for the Lions, yes.
Oh,
So we want to go to support our parking enforcement officer.
Otherwise known as
okay, as long as
Starsky.
not...
Are you going to have your backup partner?
Yeah.
Good reason to cancel a meeting, we won't get in trouble, right?
Very it is.
Postpone, that's all, we're postponing it for one day. That's
One
all I
person.
You want to run through your, thanks, but anybody have any questions before Bob leaves, that anything else you want to look at, or
I looked into that micro
surfacing?
and I talked to a few people, they say it's a fantastic new idea.
Yeah,
It's going to start jumping all over the Northeast.
thanks, Bob.
You're welcome, thank you.
Mr. DiGiuseppe, I apologize. Mrs. Fields just reminded me. Pat Mulhern wants to know if he can continue his yoga on the river, I think starting April the 3rd or the 4th. Just wanted to make sure that no council people had an objection with that. He does it on the wharf on Saturday mornings, 9 to 10. Do I have your support?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, before Mr. Dolan starts, just to, one thing, the community partnership on May the 2nd, and hopefully again with the borough, will have its annual borough cleanup, where the borough participates and we get a lot of people in town. I'm just announcing it now. It's the first Saturday in May, just to let everybody know so we can start looking at getting volunteers, where we normally work at cleaning up the path and the riverfront, although our borough guys do such a good job, generally there's not a lot, but this year we want to look at some other special projects, and normally the borough partners with that. Just want to remind you.
Great, anything else, Joe?
No.
I'm gonna run down your list. Anybody has any questions, you could stop the manager, if not, he'll just keep going.
Mayor, you want to touch on that Rotary International proclamation?
Yes, I got a call from Mike Buckheit, who is the secretary for the Rotary. He'd asked me if the borough could issue a proclamation. This was right after our last meeting for the Rotary. It's their, I think it's 104th year, 114th year. So the borough is going to issue a proclamation that March the 9th, they'll recognize the Rotary International on their anniversary. And I've been invited to their meeting on the, I think the 15th or 16th of the month. I'd be more than happy to read this if you'd like me to.
On on Monday evening, PECO's governmental affairs representative will be here to make a presentation to the borough volunteers. This deals with the gas event from last year. Merle, you want to touch on that briefly, what happened? And
We had an incident that involved PECO, I believe it was at the end of July, or August, where a high-pressure gas main on Beaver Street actually ended up having a water box cover on it. And when Aqua was in town doing work along with PECO, somebody inadvertently opened what they thought was the water valve, and actually it was a high-pressure gas valve. So we had an issue with a lot of pilots blowing out from people's houses, and PECO came in, they brought their command vehicle and set up shop over here by the hairdressers, and we had 3 of the fire companies involved that went door to door with PECO's people to check the individuals' heaters and hot water heaters and make sure that the pilot legs and all got restored. So it went into the early morning hours from about 3 o'clock in the afternoon to almost 5 o'clock in the morning. So PECO is coming in with a presentation with a check for the volunteers that participated in the event. So he should be here next week, Ted Duran.
Consider authorizing the sale of 3 borough vehicles to high bidders based on the public bids.
Did everybody get a chance to go over that public bid list?
Yeah.
To see how much the one truck they offered $700 for I'm looking for, where is that sheet? Here. Just so we know, the high bidder on the 1984 Chevy box van was $700. The one truck, the 1995 Ford dump truck, was $4,396, and the 1995 Ford dump truck was $4,396. So they were 3 high bid. Some of them didn't even bid on some of it. So we're selling, what, 3 vehicles? $700, $4,396, and $4,396. Does anybody have any questions on that, or that's what our trucks were worth, I guess, but...
6,800.
Huh?
About 6,800.
3 trucks. And there were a lot of people that bid, that's why I said to the manager, how many people were involved in that thing, Billy?
7 bidders.
7 bidders. So it shows you that we got some people, right? Yeah.
Okay. Well, Chief touched on the status of the police renovations. They're supposed to be moving out of there by Friday, and then George's crew will be going in to do some minor cleanup the following week, and then Twining will be back in to complete the renovations in the fire building area. Televising the governmental information and council meetings. Comcast was supposed to be in today to do the hookup, but I guess the weather, is going to delay it. So hopefully that'll happen in the next week or so. The website, we launched the website yesterday, so there is a couple minor issues that we have to address, but other than that, we've been receiving, I think, favorable feedback, so if you get the opportunity, you may want to take a look. Next month at the meeting, George Waldron will be here, and he'll give council his recommendations on what he's recommending should be done to renovate the various tot lots in town. As you remember, we did receive a grant through the Community Development Program at the county to do this. So that'll be on your work agenda for April 7th. The next two items, I'd like Merle to give you a brief update on this Rome Secure Alert Network. Go ahead, Merle.
We used to have the alerting system in the county. It was called the Community Alert Network, where if we had an emergency in town, we had 7 or 8 of our emergency services people who had the capability to alert the residents by making a call, putting a voice message on a tape, and it would be played to all of the residents in the area that was designated. That contract with the county ran out at the end of December, and the county chose not to renew it because they wanted to go with something a little newer and updated. So now we have the Rome Secure Alert Network, which is otherwise known as RSAN. And what this is, this program gets the residents to register, and we have the forms and information out here on the table. This information will also go on the website and probably on our TV roller when it gets going. I attended a class up at the county with Suzanne Dudek, who is the EMA specialist that instructed us on how to use this. And then after I had completed the course, I had set up a meeting in council chambers here with Suzanne to come in and train the other 10 people who we have as our people that would call. The county is also going to have registrations in the near future for what they call the Special Needs Registry, which involves handicapped people, people with disabilities, and these people have the option to register, get their information into the county, and when there is an emergency, whether it be a fire or an evacuation or anything of this type, the information would be made available to the first responders, and they would know that the people or person at the address that's called in has a special needs assistance to either leave the residence or some additional type of assistance. That will be coming up shortly. We haven't received any information yet as to when this class will be, but we were notified on February 2nd that this program is going to start, called the Special Needs Registry. What I liked, I attended that meeting that night, and I was impressed with the fact that, let's say there's a gas leak on Wilson Avenue near Jackson Street or Monroe Street. Everybody in that area within seconds will get a phone call saying, you got to evacuate, we have a gas leak, God forbid there could be an explosion, instead of everybody running around banging on doors to get out. The other thing I like about it, it targets certain people with disabilities and things like that. And if the phone system's down, if you get, it'll go to your cell phone if you're registered, correct, Merle?
Yeah.
There's a lot of pluses with this, and I had recommended that we do one call, we'll pick a night, say a Friday night at 6 o'clock, where the entire town gets this message as an alert, as a practice, so you know what you're going to hear when it comes over. But I know Merle works very hard on attending these emergency management meetings and to keep us with the newest technology out there.
Not only will this, excuse me, go to your home phone, but you have the option when you sign up online that you can receive text message. It'll do a page, and it'll also do voice. And this is part of the county's 5-county area. It's Bucks, Chester, Delaware, Montgomery, and Philadelphia. And you can sign up. Say if you worked in a different county, you could sign up and have these alerts sent to you or text to you in addition to where you live versus where you work, or if you spend a lot of time in a different county from Bucks.
But whether you sign up or not, Merle, it still takes, the Verizon has all the phone numbers, whether they're listed or non-listed.
Right.
And it shoots them out in seconds to everybody in that area.
Yes.
And I'm looking for, I don't know where I just put it.
The item 10 in your packet was a summary of the applications that we filed with Congressman Murphy's office about some stimulus money to apply, as an example, for $10 million for the streets and handicap curb installation program. Applied for $6 million for the waterfront improvement project. We've also applied for the Gateway project, as well as the Public Works garage and site cleanup, because that building is in horrendous condition. Matter of fact, it is unsafe, and we've tried over the last couple of years to obtain insurance premium quotes from other insurance companies, and the one thing that keeps coming up is the condition of that building. So that's, hopefully, we could be successful on a grant there to clean up that, area that's been dumped. Dumping's been going on for years, as well as improve the Public Works garage. And also, we applied for a solar energy system at the sewer plant for a little over $3 million. So I want to thank Maria and Angie and George Waldron for helping get this information together to get this application before the congressman. So.
Mr. Lutz didn't say it because he asked about the stimulus money, but did everybody else have a chance to review that list that was in your packets?
Last thing I have is in George Waldron's monthly report. His goal is to start the sweeping program on Thursday, April 2nd, to abide by the signs. So for that week and the following week, because that following Friday is Good Friday, which the sweeper will not run. So those 3 days that it is running, we'll just give out little notices and all to the residents, tell them that the sweeping program is now in effect, and please abide by the fines.
Can I just make a suggestion on that? Go ahead. I like to get it on our TV channel so people can see it besides the signs. Before we establish a date, can we see when this channel is definitely going to be up and running? I don't have a problem starting the sweeper, but I really don't want to start giving tickets out to people in the first 2 or 3 days. I think we should give them more time moving their vehicles, and
Actually,
It
Mr.
was
Chairman, I think
never-
we're going to give them 2 weeks.
it was never our intention to, we really don't care about the ticket, more or less to clean our streets. It was always council's intention to clean the road, not to give tickets, but if it was on our information channel, showing when it starts, the time, and that was something that we discussed. Let's discuss that further.
All right, that's all I
Maybe
have.
you can get us a definite date on the channel. I know they keep saying any day now it's gonna be on. One thing I forgot is when we did the renovation on the second floor, we put a plaque up outside, if everybody recalls, with everybody's name on it. I just wanna make sure there was, Mr. Lutz, do you want your name on the renovation plaque for the police station?
I voted against it, Ralph.
But it doesn't matter to us, we just don't want to put it on there and you say you didn't want it. I don't have a problem putting it on.
Not necessary.
All right.
Not necessary.
So you don't want it on there.
No.
Well, I don't want you to say, why'd you put my name on? As a councilman, you should be on there, even though you voted against everything.
Fine.
But I think, would you like it? I want to give you the opportunity, we didn't last time. You voted for the plaque. So, I can't,
I don't think I voted for that.
No, you did.
You voted for everyone who supported the project.
I just
I made the
don't,
motion, you said yes.
I'll vote against the plaque again, that's all.
No, you didn't vote against the plaque.
you voted for the plaque, that's what I was confused about.
Don't be confused.
Do you have a problem with your name being on it?
I don't have a problem either way, whatever you want to do.
Whatever you want to do. Joe?
I just want to congratulate the borough for putting this newsletter out. I must have about 100 people tell me that they were so thankful for this newsletter, especially the inside page. Do you know where your property taxes go? And I think that was an excellent article, breaking down for the people that live in this town where their taxes go. And no matter where I go, the people have this, and they're talking about this recent Bristol Borough newsletter. So I commend the staff to put this together. The whole newsletter is great, but that inside page just tells everybody what it's really all about relative to your tax dollars. You should have got one in the mail at home. If not, on your way out,
Right here on the table.
looks
But,
just like that.
Joe, why don't you explain about the taxes, how they're broken?
Yeah, well, in here it tells you, do you know where your property taxes go? And it tells you that the 2008 and 9 property taxes, the borough of Bristol gets 26 cents out of every dollar, the county gets 11 cents, and the school district gets about 63 cents, or not about, 63 cents of every dollar. And then it breaks down that on an average assessment of a $16,000 assessment, pays $798 per year in taxes. And then it was broken down by the borough manager, how much money goes to debt service, fire protection, general fund, parks and recreation, rescue squad, street lighting, street reconstruction. So, I mean, if there's any question about where your tax dollars are going, I mean, it's right here, and it's, you know, in plain English. I mean, there's a lot of good things in here. I think, as Mr. Lutz brought up about the Bristol Borough will participate in the Pennsylvania Economy League survey, which they were recognized as being one of the model communities in the state of being fiscally responsible. And the Economy League wanted to look at, you know, how the borough did it. And then the renovations to the police station and what's going on in general and things about our, you know, the town in general. Borough honored as a classic town. But the big thing that people have commented to me, borough's dead, almost gone, but where do your property taxes go? If you have that burning question, it's in here. You know, it answers it. Yeah, so great job.
A lot of people don't understand that a small portion of your tax bill goes to the borough. It's, the school gets a lot of money, the county, and out of your $700 and some dollars, what we do with it. So it is you did a great job on that article, as usual. Anybody have any questions before, anything legal? Public? Nothing? Anybody have any questions before we adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.